So let me invite our feature speaker. I'm not going to give you any long readout on her, except to tell you she is Mrs. Betty Comby. And I say Mrs. for a reason because her husband is being spoken about a lot every time this lady comes to the table. And she is a quality management specialist, and she's the managing director of Moores Inc. That's all I'm going to give you. Let's welcome her.
Good morning, everybody. Please allow me to adopt the protocol that has been established. Vive la Marguerite. Roseback, working for repeat business, page 76, title, Responsibility. When my son Omar was hired for his first job as a copywriter with a digital marketing firm, he was excited. After about 6 months of working, when I asked how was work, he would reply, meh. I had a chat with him after hearing a few of those mehs. I stressed the value of having a job, apart from the obvious benefits of some financial independence. It provided opportunities, such as improving your skills, networking, working towards goals and objectives, team building, teamwork. I stressed that it was up to him to challenge himself in the job. If he was given a target of 5, he should challenge himself to a target of 6 or more, become his own competitor. His objective was to develop skills that would be applied to any work activity in the future. After that chat, whenever I asked how was work, he would reply, Mom, very productive. Productive, or not as productive as I would have liked. When it comes to work, 3 points should be stressed. 1, all work is a process. And a process is simply a set of activities which changes inputs into outputs. It doesn't matter what type of work, reporting, managing, manufacturing, banking, cleaning, lovemaking, housekeeping, it's all work, right? And they are all processes. You know, it is the quality guru Deming who says, if you cannot describe what you are doing as a process, then you do not know what you are doing. 2, all work can be improved. Improvement can take the form of using fewer or less resources, making less errors, enhancing the satisfaction of the worker, enhancing the value to the customer, making the process safer. All work can be improved. And thirdly, work connects us. Our output is someone else's input. If our output is shoddy or delayed, then it impacts someone else. If we recognize this, we then begin to understand why productivity is everybody's business and needs to be part of our national consciousness. A best practice for improving productivity is quality management, globally known as business common sense, and recognized as an approach to lean production. In my book, entitled Roseback, and it's on the screen, I attempted to simplify quality management via a tool called Roseback and spoke specifically to the worker. Roseback is a mnemonic, as shown on the screen, and representing the elements of recipients' needs and expectations, objectives, laws, lessons learned, standards, background, activities, risk, resources, responsibility, and communication. Simply put, Roseback is an everyday guide to doing work well and satisfying the customer or the recipient. Moving towards greater productivity takes us into the realm of change. And change management requires that we touch the heart first, then the minds, and then the hands. In the book, I demonstrate the value of roles back in our homes first. Hence, Glenn spoke about my husband. And then in the workplace. So in the time left, and Glenn has not given me much time, in the time left, I will demonstrate the application of roles back towards enhanced effectiveness and efficiency, and hence greater productivity. So let's begin. So each of us here is a worker, and we're expected to supply a deliverable or deliverables. Ministerial services, advocacy, banking services, management services, supervisory services, goods, budgetary services, we have here the moving up, parenting services. This is the deliverable or deliverables that we are delivering. And one thing we need to note about this is that apart from being aware of our deliverable or deliverables, we should be aware of its intended purpose. Now, this is an important point I want to spend some time on, intended purpose. And I like to give the example of a bottled water. You know, a bottled water intended purpose is to quench our thirst. Not so? Now, think of it. So who are your competitors? Well, coconut water is your competitor. Soft drinks are your competitor. Maybe a shot might be a competitor for somebody else. You see, what I love about recognizing your intended purpose is you start seeing really who your competitors are, because it's anybody that can satisfy that intended purpose. And so communication becomes key. Hence, it's called the lifeblood of any organization. It is called the lifeblood of any relationship. Isn't that nice? So whom are you delivering to? And what are their needs and expectations? Now, I don't even like using the word customers anymore. I use the word recipient. Our recipient's needs and expectations. Because who is the recipient? Well, it's our customer. It's the co-worker. It's our children. We're losing our children, people. Focus on them as the recipient. It's our significant other. That's the value of this body of knowledge, because it's talking to satisfaction of the recipient. And so the R comes in play, recipients' needs and expectations, as well as communication. Now, is there any background information related to any aspect of your delivery? Background on the customer, background on the process, background on the product? We should do the necessary research. Remember, persons who have experienced it also have something to share with you. They have lessons learned. Let's not forget that. You can come in with all your qualifications and all your degrees, but the person who has been doing the work has something that you do not have. They have lessons learned. Respect them. Keep that in mind. We go on to specifically, what can you deliver consistently? And quality is about consistency of delivery. So what can you deliver consistently based on the recipient's needs and expectations? So we need to set objectives. And we're all familiar with SMART objectives. I'll talk about that later. But I must stress that our objectives have to be both output and outcome-based. And this is a story I tell about in the book, where I was making this presentation to a group of Leon Hess students. And one of the students said to me, a threat to him completing secondary school is a go-up well. Very real, a go-up well. You know, and so I like using that example, that a go-up well is an outcome. The horn, that's the output. So you can deliver on the horn, but you can't guarantee the go-up well. And customer satisfaction is an outcome. Keep that in mind. So when we set our objectives, they must be both output-based and they must be outcome-based. Please, it's about impact. Okay? So objectives, so important. Whom are we interfacing with to ensure delivery? It is our responsibility to maintain the relationship with persons who supply you with information and resources, as well as the person you are delivering to. It must be a win-win-win situation. Keep that in mind. That's the interfaces. Again, responsibility and understanding the human aspect of this, right? Everybody wants to feel appreciated. Everybody wants to feel value. So if something is working out for you, if you want it to be sustained, then you need to ensure that all participants involved, all stakeholders involved are also experiencing value. So we continue with our deliverable. So what is the acceptance criteria for this deliverable or deliverables that you are producing? The customers expect you to be the competent supplier. And as a competent supplier, you need to reference not just their needs and expectations, but they expect you to know about standards and the best practices associated with it. And that's the caveat within the confines of the law. Do not break the law to deliver. Keep that in mind. And if you're about effectiveness and efficiency, you must be proactive. And so what can go wrong? What could go very right? There are opportunities out there, and it was good to hear Fiona talk about the opportunities that occur in crises. And so what could go wrong? How can we strategize to address it? That's the risk. You notice? R is risk. Let's keep it simple, people. Let's keep it simple. Are we moving on? So what activities will allow us to deliver? Let's sequence those activities. Remember, it's a process, right? Process is simply a set of activities. And make sure it includes the necessary checks. So in the book, when I talk about activities, I also talk about the tool for continuous improvement. Anybody here? The tool for continuous improvement for a book. For a book. What is the tool for continuous improvement? Anybody? Nobody wants a book? Okay, we're moving on. It's unfortunate. Keep on. The tool, we talk about the tool of the PDCA cycle, the Plan, Do, Check, Act. That's the tool for continuous improvement. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. When you implement, when you execute, you simply do. And always check. And there are a number of things to check. We'll talk about those number of things to check in a while, right? But the checks have to take place. Okay, and always act to improve. That's the tool for continuous improvement. So somebody lost a book there. We're moving right along. And the customer's journey to receive this deliverable. Understand what they're experiencing, people. It's all about an experience. It's no longer just about your product or your service. It's about an experience. And if you're thinking of an experience, you have to think of what it is they're seeing, what it is they're hearing, what it is they're smelling, what it is they're tasting. I'm telling you, 25 years in my marriage this year, and I'm still titillating all my man's senses. I'm making sure he sees things he likes and he hears things he likes, and he smells things he's like, and I'm affirming him. I'm building him up because his love language is words of affirmation. Think of it, it's an experience. And we're moving on. So what resources do you need? And in the book, I talk about the 4 M's and the 2 T's and the E. I'm a chemistry background. I had to put the formula in there somehow. And so the M, and actually, this is a term that came from manufacturing. I just added an extra T. And so when we talk about the 4 M's, we're talking about manpower, in quotations, you know what I mean? It's human resource. Materials, machinery/equipment. What method? What technology? What time? We must bring in that technology in there, that digital age. Technology, time. What environment? So when you're thinking of the resources, think along those lines. And then it's about consistency of delivery. We must document. Documented information is needed. Work instructions, procedures, records. You know, when we talk about documentation, the question is, why do you document? Well, you document to communicate. I like to talk about the C's of documentation. You document to communicate. You document to ensure consistency of delivery. You document for continuity. You know, you document for conformance, for compliance. And when I thought I had captured it all, one person said to me, you document for CYA. You know what that is. We're moving on. And what will you check? Right? And refer back to the acceptance criteria. You know this thing about acceptance criteria with my boys. I remember talking to them about, and I think, I'm not sure if I covered that story in the book, but it was cleaning their bathroom. And so I said to them, listen, before you start, we need to discuss acceptance criteria. And acceptance criteria is when I get into that bathroom, I'm supposed to take a fresh scent. Acceptance criteria is when I get into that bathroom, it's supposed to look clean. I'm not supposed to see mold on the tiles. Acceptance criteria is when I pass my hand along the tile, it's supposed to feel smooth. We need to begin with the end in mind, people. Let's make sure we're all on the same page. Okay? And so the checks have to be done. And we're checking, We're checking the inputs. We're checking the activities. We're checking the outputs. But a lot of us are failing to check the customer satisfaction, check the impact. Did you achieve the outcome? Very important. Okay? And so we will make errors. Einstein says the only mistake made in life is the lesson not learned. We need to embrace our errors. Errors are opportunities for improvement. We like to call them the OFIs. Opportunities for improvement. So we will make errors, and that is okay. But we cannot be repeating the same errors over and over. It's not kosher, people. It's just not. We have to learn lessons, and we need to share those lessons so other persons are not making the same errors. And then just 2 more points to be made here. Glenn has just given me 15 minutes. I'm noting that. How will we review our performance? And that's why your objectives need to be smart, specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. My husband, we were walking along the Nelson Mandela Drive. I'm sure if I had to ask a question, where is that? I'm not sure how many of you will tell me that. Anyway, we're moving on. And so he says to me, so Betty, you're always talking about begin with the end in mind. So what end in mind you have for this walking we're doing? Who tell the man asked me that? I literally stopped in my track. I closed my eyes and I said, well, babes, I visualize you with a six-pack, wearing a tank top, so smugly fitting that I can see the bulges through. And he says to me, that's what you visualize, Betty? Aren't you the one who always talking about objectives have to be measurable? Is that measurable? What about lower our pressure, lower our cholesterol? I said, but I don't understand. Ladies, let me ask you, is a six-pack not measurable? There you go. Let's get real, And so I learned the word keg. Is that the word? Is that the word I heard? If you have a six-pack, you have a keg? Let's just say my husband doesn't have a six-pack. Moving on. Learn the word keg from Kent. And so how will we improve? Remember, it's a journey of improvement. Always remember that. It's a journey of improvement. Remember, it's PDCA, plan, do, check, and act to improve. And when it comes to improve, I remember the farmers, and I talk about that story in my book. When I met with the farmers, and I said give them a choice of either love making or preparing a meal. Let's look at one of these activities. And it was the farmer who said to me, so miss, what do you do when the tool is not working? Very relevant question, We have a high rate of diabetes in St. Lucia, but very relevant question. And so I could pose that question to you, but I'll stop here. But in my book, a lot of strategies have been suggested with regard to what do you do when the tool is not working? I thank the farmers. I don't think anybody else would have brought up that question to me but a farmer. And so in conclusion, in that little bit of time that Glenn has given me, let me see. Two quotes from Roseback, Working for Repeat Business. And in keeping with the theme of this year's Productivity and Awareness Week, expanding national consciousness towards greater productivity, they are. One by Stephanie Myers, and she says, the wasting of finite resources is everyone's business. And secondly, from Sarah Jen, and she says, you are solely responsible for doing the work required to become better. And with that, I say thank you.
Let me tell you, this lady has a way of making productivity feel sexy. Thank you so much. A bigger round of applause for Betty.